Hello, Jaime from Inky&Scrappy, back with my Get Creepy on Halloween make for August 2025. It is Halloween season up in this house. I'm excited. Anyway, so this card idea came to me shortly after Ozzy had passed, and I felt it needed to come to fruition, and so I decided to pull in some things and go this route. So Ink Road had a release, I think this is Roadies 62, maybe 63. I'll list it down below. I have to pull out a bunch of sets to remember which ones I used anyways. So she had released this one with the rocker hand, like, you know, up in the air, and so of course I thought of Ozzy right away because it released around that same time. And so I was like, this, you know, could work for my Halloween card. The other thing is I listened to Sirius XM, and you guys probably don't know, but I bought my brother's car when he passed away, and his car tells me whenever Metallica is on. And so, you know, when I'm in the car by myself, I always switch it to Metallica when it pops up on the screen. And so it was just one of those days, and it was on, Metallica was on. And so it was playing on Ozzy's Boneyard, and I just had the idea that that would make a really cool Halloween card. And so, of course, it you know, just kind of built itself from there, and I shopped my stash. Of course, I have Halloween galore. So I did pull in some Tim Holtz sets, just mainly for the graves in this one. I thought about doing it all in die cuts. I have the options, right? So I kind of struggled with where to start, and I was kind of in the mood to just kind of play with some mixed media, kind of do a one layer card. It doesn't end up being a one layer card, obviously, because I'm pulling in the other stamp set. Now, I didn't plan this one out as well as maybe I should have. Well, okay, it's creeping on Halloween. I never plan these out. The other thing is I had planned on using this for my craft roulette make for the week. And so I started with like a 4.5 by 6 inch piece of paper, thinking I was going to cut it down, you know, to size. So I would end up with a 4 by 6 panel at the most, and then mount it on a 5 by 7 card base. That was my original plan and or intent, like, you know, chopping it down to size. So it was going to be shorter, maybe even a little narrower, but I think it wasn't quite, I think I was like going to go 3 3/4 by whatever that would be. And so as I was doing it, I probably should have stamped these that I just stamped now onto the front and not not over the top of my masks in the back. So I did mask the 3 graves, which was fine. I mean, I made it work in the end. I did kind of want to highlight a couple of them, and so this way I was able to highlight those. You know, the ones that were off to the side were really like, I don't know, because Amy's gonna laugh, side pieces, like side thought. It wasn't even like in my realm when I was designing it in my head. It just ended up happening on paper, and it ended up working. So I did bring in a piece of Bristol Smooth. Xpress It cardstock. I can't talk today. So Xpress It cardstock for my hand here. It did not want to stamp. I see why, because I had magnets on top of magnets, and that was my issue, right? But I may have been on Crafty Chat, and so I wasn't really paying great attention. Now, I pulled in some more of my Tim Holtz. I think this is the Cadaver stamp set. Don't quote me, but I'm almost certain that these stamps come from the Cadaver stamp set. I don't think I ended up using the hand. I thought it was just too big for the overall scene, but I end up using the bone because obviously if it's going to be Ozzy's Boneyard, it needs to have some bones in it. I wasn't too worried about, you know, stamping over the top of the graves that weren't masked. I could have definitely done a whole lot of masking and taken a whole lot of time. But you will see by the end product, and if you looked at the beginning, you kind of know that it didn't really matter a whole lot just because of how I did it. And so I wasn't overly worried about those things like being seen, because I planned on going really dark and gloomy with this one. And of course, Ozzy just, I don't know, screams purple and black to me. So of course I was going to go heavy with the purple and of course black because, you know, obviously rocker black or Prince of Darkness or whatever they call him. And so that was kind of where I went with that purple. And then of course the darkest green, which is that rustic wilderness green color, I brought in for the quote unquote grass in my grave / boneyard. And so of course I'm just bringing that in to kind of get my grass going. I wasn't overly concerned about it being neat or looking pretty at this point. I'm going to bring in Hickory smoke for my gravestones. Now, this is Oxide ink, so it is definitely going to cover up my inking, which I was more than fine with. Now, here's where I just kind of fix those little areas that I maybe shouldn't have, you know, stamped over the top of the ones that I had masked. I should have done them first and then stamp, you know, mask them and then stamp the back ones. If I was going to do this all in alcohol marker coloring, that's how I would have done it. Since I didn't, I did it this way. So I just brought in that hickory smoke, kind of fixed my little oopsies, and then of course I brought in some Distress black soot and went all the way around the outside. And this is where I decided, because I originally had planned on like cutting the gravestones off on the side, so I wasn't really, but once I brought in the black soot and kind of added the black soot all the way around, I just liked the panel as a whole and I didn't want to cut it down. Yeah, it happens. That's kind of how it rolls sometimes. It's, you know, it's art. It's supposed to have a mind of its own, take its own, you know, take its own directions, and sometimes forcing it isn't always the right way to go. So I did bring in some alcohol inks. I will tell you this, or markers, if you are going to color close to distress oxides and I end up coloring over distress oxides, it's not recommended. Make sure you clean your marker off very well when you are done, just so you don't have, especially if you're using like an expensive Copics or whatever. I pulled in my older grays from Ohuhu, so these ones are the ones that are like the first ones I got. So if I ruined them, I wasn't gonna cry about it, right? It's just, they're just markers. And so I wasn't overly worried about it. I do make sure I have a piece of paper on the side and I clean off the tips for the most part. I did go with, you know, skin tones for the little thumbs up. I thought they were kind of, you know, obviously backup band members. So not that any of them are, you know, whoever's up there already playing backup for Ozzy, okay? And so I just brought in a, I'd like to call, I think it was clay, possibly. I don't remember the color name on the marker, but it was just kind of like a gloomy skin tone, maybe even like a green gray skin tone to kind of give it a zombie sort of vibe. And then of course bringing in the rest of the grays to kind of come back in and do some of the other ones. I'm pretty sure I brought in the green grays for some of my gravestones, and then of course bringing in just a regular cool gray for the ones that are in the back. And this is where I say I decided to just go over the whole thing with my marker. It did leave streaks, like you could see where the lines were. Don't worry, I end up playing with it some more and I end up just making it work for me. I wasn't really worried about, you know, it's a lot like painting sometimes, and so layers, right? And so sometimes it doesn't look the greatest when we're in the moment, but it'll get there. So I do Ozzy's grave all in alcohol markers, and you'll see me do that here. I did a lot of streaky. I like that look, and so that's the way I went. I did kind of, you know, color in and add some things in there that maybe weren't in there, or highlighted things that I wanted highlighted, and went from there. So what is Get Creeping on Halloween? It is a hashtag driven collab that I started, like 3+ years ago on like that Halloween, because I was like, I have so many Halloween stamps and I never get enough create time in the fall to make all of the Halloween things that I want to make. And so I was like, why do I limit myself to Halloween makes end of August through October? Like, I just need to, because I get I don't know. I find my creative energy in my Halloween makes. It's just kind of what helps the creative juices flow. I'm not afraid. It's a lot like dressing up in costume. You can do sillier things than maybe you would in real, when you're not in costume, because nobody knows who you are, or they expect you to be kind of, not your normal on that day. So it's kind of the same thing when it comes to my Halloween makes. I definitely just enjoy the process more, and it's where it feeds my creative soul. I find a lot of inspiration with it. I have been getting like, it's the end of the month and I need to do it. But I always have fun with it, even when I'm like not in a mood to do Halloween. Like in March, it happens. But ultimately, I've been enjoying it. I will probably continue. I don't know if I'll do it every month, but probably. I mean, but anyone is welcome to join in the Get Creeping on Halloween hashtag. Post your creations on Instagram. Make sure to tag me at InkyandScrappy on Instagram so I can creep on your creep too. I might not get to it right away, but I will try. Hashtagging it doesn't bring it up like it used to, so make sure to tag me if you want me to see it. The same on here. Let me know. Please tag me if you do the Get Creeping on Halloween hashtag so I can check out your Halloween makes too. I love all of the energy around Halloween makes. They're just fun. And you can go, sweet and spooky or creepy, and it's just fun. So anyways, I brought in a Chinese marker. It's just a white, kind of like a crayon, waxy crayon, I guess. It sits really well on the top of Oxides. Was this a planned thing? No, but it's sitting in my thing. I picked it up at the hardware store of all places, and probably because it marks on metal. But I was like, this looks like something that would be fun in my craft room. So of course it is now in my craft room. I also brought in some distressed crayons. I added those onto my graves that I didn't like. I wanted some extra shade on them, or I wanted some highlights on them. And so bringing those in sat on top, and it just kind of helped make them come to life a little bit more and hid what I didn't like about them, or just touched it up a lot like painting. You're just adding another layer. I did do some smudging and all of the fun things. Did I get all of the bones that I stamped on there? I have no clue. I thought I would pay attention by this point and tell you if I did or I didn't. I'm sure I missed some because I'm pretty sure I had a few more on there. But ultimately, it was just kind of a guide anyways, right? And so once I had this done, I decided I needed to add in a little bit more grass to my, in front of, because all of the graves had like grass around them or clumps of dirt and stuff. So I wanted to kind of bring some of that detail back. So I did bring in, the only crayon that I had that was green was like a metallic one, and it worked. It glows so gorgeous in real life. This never, ever, ever gives you the shimmer and shine and the glow that you get in real life with the pearlescent stuff. It's just, I don't know, way prettier in real life. And so of course I still had to color my rocker hand. So of course just bringing in another one of those skin tone colors, and then just kind of, I did really simple coloring. I just did the one color here, and then of course doing one layer and then coming back with a second layer in the areas that I wanted a shadow to. And then of course, I did bring in two. So I brought in one because it just wasn't dark enough for me. So I brought in another darker one and just kind of added a little bit more detail and shadow in there. And then I'm going to bring in my glossy black gel pen. So this is, I don't know, you have to warm it up first, right? So it sits, it kind of dries on the end, and it doesn't flow very good. So I always make sure that it's flowing well before I go in with it. Otherwise you get like clumpy black, and you don't want clumpy black. So I did that on the fingernails because of course black nail polish. I just figured it needed to be shiny. And then I brought in some silver gel pen for the little spikes on the cuff. And then I did take the time to just hand cut this one out with my little cutter bee scissors, moving the paper around the scissors gets you a smoother cut, and I did go on the line or as close to the line as possible. And then I did come back and kind of do a jagged edge on the bottom because I want it to be sticking out of the dirt, and I didn't want it to look like it was a straight line. So I did do that. I'm going to bring in a brown distress crayon. I don't know what color it was. It was just the one that I had. So I think maybe Vintage Photo. It could have been, I don't know, whichever one comes in that set. So I do decide to bring in, I was going back and forth between doing a wobbler on this one or just popping it up. I just decided to pop it up. The wobbler would have been fun, but I just, I don't know. I wasn't feeling whimsical for a wobbler on this one. Creepy maybe, wobbler. I don't know. I just decided to do the popped up version, and then I popped that one on, obviously, and then I went and found my Tim Holtz. This one was re-released last Halloween, and it's like a, I don't know, spooky vibe alphabet. I will find it and list it in the description box below if you're interested. The other one that I would suggest is Sassy. The Sassy Club has a like creepy one, but it's bigger, like the letters are bigger, and so it was just too big for my card, or at least for what I wanted to do on this one. It probably would have worked. The boneyard would have been really close though, I think, across the bottom. It was just a lot of letters to try to get in there in a bigger font. So this one's just kind of a smaller, a little bit smaller size. I liked the, you know, I really did like the other one, but ultimately I went with this one, and I cut those out of some shiny black cardstock I picked up on Amazon. I picked up a lot of it on Amazon. I think it was stupid cheap. Like, I can't even tell you stupid cheap. I think it was like 13 bucks for 100 sheets. And it's like big sheets, like bigger than normal sheet. Maybe is it wider? I don't remember. It's longer than, I think it's 11.5 by 8.5. It's a little bit bigger than a regular sheet of paper. Anyways, it's gloriously shiny black. I love it. I use it a lot. It works. So just painstakingly adding each one of those letters on. If I would have thought about it, I'd have probably added some die cut like score style tape. And I was lucky enough that those two kind of like stuck together there, and I was able to kind of add the glue onto that little piece at the same time as the S. I think it just kind of helped, but I did end up flipping it around. So to get my apostrophe up there, I just cut an extra letter and cut one of the tips off of it. Kind of like cutting an extra Y and making it work. I don't remember what letter I did. It was just one that I was like, oh, that'll work. So I did bring in that extra piece of black glossy cardstock, or some more of the black glossy cardstock, and just cut it to match my panel. My panel is odd sized. It is not it's not a 5x7. It's just an odd size. Well, you know, it happens. And so I just made sure that my border was about the same all the way around. And then I will cut a piece of cardstock down to a 5x7. And then I will cut it down from there, because I knew it was close to 5x7, but I knew it wasn't a 5x7. So I'm bringing in my scoreboard here and just scoring it at 5 inches. So it's like a 7-inch wide piece of paper by 10 inches, scored at 5, folding it in half. And then I will bring in my cutter. And yeah, you see how I think it's like ended up being like 6.5 inches wide, which I'm not worried about finding an envelope. I'll just throw it in a 5x7 envelope. So I just cut it down. I cut it down a little too short, but in the end, it'll be fine. It happens. So for this one, I've decided to bring in some more stamps and stamp the inside. So I wanted to do something fun. And yes, I ran out of room on my desktop. Why? Because I didn't put anything away as I was creating. That would be like, why? Why would you do that? Okay, I should do that. I don't do that. I brought in a close to my heart old stamp set. This one's like a rocking, I don't remember the name of it, but it's like, it's got a cool guitar on it, and so of course I figured I'd bring in the cool guitar on this one. So I stamped it with the Villainous Potion, and then I did some light dusting of black soot over a couple of spots, so it kind of has a two-tone effect. And then of course, before I get too far, I had to come up with a sentiment for the inside, and so I did end up pulling in the Foolish Mortals from underneath the grave in the Tim Holtz, I think it's Monster Reunion stamp set. Again, it will be listed down below. And then of course I had to bring in the little rocker hand again because I just thought it was fun. And so I ended up going with the I don't want to party all night long anymore, an hour or two max or something like that. You'll see what it says here in a little bit. So of course, because my Foolish Mortals is on red rubber, I had to remove that one and then bring in my, stamp platform to do the clear ones. Of course, they're on the same set, so they'll stamp okay. And I didn't put my magnets on top of each other, so it stamped really good this time. Go figure. Amazing. Surprising, but, whatever. Yes, I don't want to rock and roll all night anymore. An hour is fine, 2 tops. Yeah, because I'm old. We were joking because I have my 25th class reunion, and I'm like, yeah, it's from like 6 to 10. And my kids are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we didn't used to start going out until like 9:30 because nothing was happening before then. Yeah. Obviously, the rest of them are getting old. Anyways, my stamp, it shifted on the cling, and so it gave me the line on top, which I was like, fine, whatever. And I didn't want to adjust it because I'd already stamped it, right? So there's no way I'm lining that back up. So I thought about trying, and I was like, nope, I'm just going to bring in my fine liner, and I just finished the sentiment. I look at the stamp and just kind of go what I think it's going to look like and finished it from there. I knew it wasn't going to work. But I love the Foolish Mortals, as in, obviously, if you're dead, you can party all night because you don't have to get up in the morning. You're dead. Do you get tired when you're dead? I mean, technically you're dead, so you shouldn't be tired. But I guess ultimately you're tired forever, right? So, I don't know. Okay, never mind. Anyways, I will pop this onto my card base. I did do some score style tape all the way around the outside. The black does, if it gets wet with glue, it kind of looks funny, or it seeps through sometimes. I don't know, it's weird. Anyways, there is my finished creation. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you get your creep on too and enjoy those Halloween makes. Bye!